Welcome to Magicians Talking Magic. My name is Ryan Joyce.
And my name is Graemazing. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Magicians Talking Magic, where we're going to talk all about modernizing your magic club, putting a breath of fresh air into it, and making them ready for the future. But before we dive into all that sort of stuff, Joyce, as we do every single week, we have news and updates.
Yeah, we had a pretty eventful week last week. First of all, here on the podcast, double episode week. Of course, lots of great comments and feedback from y'all about last week's episodes in the Discord. So thanks so much for that.
And triple snaps to you, Joyce, for two incredible FISM interviews. And talk about a FISM special week. And okay, first of all, I want to talk about the Outer Bridges episode. I was blown away by the content of that episode. Talk about two interesting people that have worldwide travelers with tons of experience, tons of knowledge in that. It's got my mind stirring about how can I do something like what they're doing with the Smith Falls. I know we talk about this on the back burner all the time. And then Jared, oh my gosh, I've listened to that interview 3 times now. I watched the episode. I listened to it because I had a big drive for a freelance video shoot. It was like an hour and a half. So I listened to the episode to and then from, and I found each time I listened to it, there were new things I was learning from. So I think there's a 4th and 5th listen there too. Can we get him back on the podcast?
That would be amazing. And I will be, of course, on site up in Quebec City and hoping to snag some sound bites and quick interviews on the spot with many of these individuals. So don't forget to subscribe and join us here on the podcast. I want to mention too, my little takeaways from those 2 episodes. The same with Ted and Marion. The nice extra bonus of theirs to think both of them have also made their lives around this as well, and that's really, really rare in the industry. So found love and do what they love together, which is really awesome. So lots of great stories on that episode. I had not officially met them before. I know we chatted about that previously.
Were you able to?
Really nice
were you able to chat afterwards and geek about all the theaters that you've played and things like that?
Yeah, that was. I really enjoyed sort of reminiscing about some of these places that I had traveled to. We have always crisscrossed and things, but never ever officially collided. Except for they were actually here in Guelph, which we chatted about on the podcast. We have a beautiful theater not far from my house. And I saw them there in their show in person. So yeah, great. And of course, Jared was just wisdom after wisdom after wisdom and great stories along the way. Really, I've listened to it a couple times. Of course, editing it, we hear it. And each time I sort of pick up a little nugget as well. So
I think my favorite thing, it was right off the top, and it gives me goosebumps every time. And it's the way he talks about it. But the whole secret of magic is fine-tuning that key and unlocking the magic of yourself through all these just amazing. If you haven't listened to this episode, which I'm pretty sure a ton of people have listened to this episode.
Yes, and thank you everybody for joining us. We're glad you're here. This has been not only just 2 episodes that we had last week, we also had a magic get together that happened on the interim.
We actually had 3 magic get-togethers in the past week. Isn't that right? We did 2 virtual events. This is how busy last week was in magic. So not only did we do the double episode week, but we also did, because this is about magic clubs, and I'm the new president of IBM Ring 235, the KW Kitchener-Waterloo Magic Society here in Southern Ontario. We hosted a little get-together, a virtual meetup, trying it out, testing the waters for the first one for the club. We had a small turnout, but it was great. We did how I did the magic parties, the Shazam and Tell, go around the room. Everyone shares a trick, a little highlight, a little update. But it was the perfect little start party before Cam Jam, where we had met people that are going to be at FISM North American Championships coming up really soon, right, Joyce?
Busy week. Exactly. On Wednesday we had the Cam Jam, which was really great to chat with Ted and Marion Outerbridge, as well as Carissa Hendricks and Renee Claude Claire joined us for that conversation. That was really it was a fun evening it's been a fun week of magic and more to come. There's lots, of course, coming ahead for FISM North American Championship, which I'll be flying out to next week. And of course, we've got a little glimpse at our upcoming Cam Jam that I'll preview on as well, which if you attended any of the Cam Jams before, one of the big hits that we always talk about is Chip Romero giving us a sneak peek at all of his exciting magic paraphernalia and historical significant tricks, and just the guy's got everything, and books, and is incredible. And he's coming back for October, pardon me.
But the best thing besides all the collectibles about Chip is his passion and excitement when he's sharing these things, and that's the best part. It's you can see how much joy he has with all these cool collectibles, and he makes you feel excited about how special they are too. Amazing. If you can attend the Chip Romero, you have to. It's one of those, well, because the last one, it's you can't find it ever again, so it's really, you know what I mean? These are special, once in a lifetime virtual events that Chip actually does a really good job of making them truly unique.
Yep, and that's October 27th. Is the end week of October, which is going to be lots and lots and lots of content. That's National Magic Week, celebrated in both North America, I guess, or Canada and the US. I don't know what it's celebrated around the world or not, but throughout that week, we'll of course have our magic stuff. We're going to be working on some things as well. So save the date for October 31st, 9:31 p.m. And I know earlier that week, of course, we've chatted briefly about it before on the podcast, and it's the Music and Magic collaboration, Nick Wallace and Taffel Music. That's going to be released that week as well. That's also an upcoming episode you don't want to miss.
You know what's really strange, Joyce, about this season of Magicians Talking Magic that I just realized? Every year for the past few years around this time, we're always talking Oh Wow Festival. We're talking so much about it, and I feel like this year we've kept it. Maybe it's because we're so busy, but it almost feels like we're keeping it a secret from all the fans. Like we haven't unveiled everything, so we'll have to have a huge episode with maybe, a little behind the scenes curtain after the fact, I think.
That would be great. Yes, absolutely. Progresses and stuff has been made, but with, of course, the uncertainty of the pandemic and things, and it's just unsettling times. But we are continuing our tradition with the virtual aspect of the festival. I think you're right. We should do a special update to come. So I did want to just button that and say that last week is really going to be filled with magic. So mark your calendars for that last week, everybody, in October, because there'll be lots to see and participate in and do and enjoy.
And then I guess the major thing that we have coming up with the KW Magic Society, I'm not going to just reveal who we have lecturing just yet, but we hopefully have a spooky entertainer, an international performer coming to the club virtually for a virtual club. And this is a new idea, and this is going to be coming up in this episode, but I'm pretty sure this will be hosted by IBM Ring 235, IBM Ring 49, and the London Magicians Guild. So if you're a member of one of those three organizations, it's free for you. However, if you're not, say you're a Discorder, an MTM listener, and you want to get in on this spooky lecture, we're going to have a very affordable price so you can join in too. But we're going to talk about why we're doing some of those things in this episode. And also on the podcast next week, we have Joshua J. We finally have the complete Vanishing Ink. We've got Andy and Josh. Josh will be talking all about his new book. It was a great conversation, high-level magic chat. Pairs nicely with Jared's conversation too.
That's coming out soon.
Yeah, this is next week. I can't believe that we're already almost in October, but this episode will come out next week when his book is actually released too. So there's so many things happening next week too. Plus, make sure you join our Discord. Keep the conversation of magic going. We've been talking a lot about magic wallets in the Discord. I'm a wallet junkie. My 5-cent review for a lot of the new wallets are in there. As you know, we had the whole episode on the Hermes wallet. And then also make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, because not only can you watch these episodes, which I have been enjoying watching the episodes, it's kind of neat to actually see how everyone interacts in there, especially the Outer Bridges and Jared and Josh coming up soon too. Everyone, when you see them talk, it's a little bit more interesting, I find. Plus, there's bonus things, right, Joyce?
It's true, and I feel silly chatting with the Outer Bridges for all those conversations, and even the Camp Jam, and not even asking about that massive, awesome Carter poster that they had in the background, and like where was that? Like, where is that? Is that a magic room and such? So definitely, that's one of the fun parts about video is you can get a chance to see as well. But I totally missed that, so I'll have to follow up with them and ask. This is a real great discussion today, though, that we're talking about, because, like, obviously you've been thrust into a leadership role in the Magic Club era, and I'm sort of grew up in it, so I'm a big, huge believer in the social Magic Club aspect and things, and I think we both agree that, and many others probably do as well, that things seem to have tapered out, just like other service clubs and organizations and things. It's common everywhere, I'm sure. And today we wanted to chat about ways that we feel are good to improve the club, structure and vibe, and really make your club exciting again. And so that's what we're going to chat about today, right?
That is the whole idea, adding a new breath of fresh air into the club again, sparking it up, embracing some new change. But before we dive into the actual conversation, I want to put a question out there that I think if anyone is in a Magic Club, or if, say, you're on the executive of a Magic Club, maybe you want to start a Magic Club, I think this is the number one question we all need to think about before you're like, well, let's get some lectures, let's do this, we should do these meetings and all these sorts of things. What is the purpose of your Magic Club? Let that sink in. Like, really think about it. What's the purpose of the club? Why, and we're going to get to that at the end of the episode. But first, we're going to go through some ways that we can, modernize and bring our clubs into the future, and also be accepting of current times and trends. Because I think the way a Magic Club used to be, when I was reading through old constitutions and old rundowns of the full season, it obviously things can't work the same. So the number one thing I think Magic Clubs need to do is be agile. You need to be agile. And I think we can all learn a lesson from this too. But don't waste your time planning out an entire year. Plan out in seasons or quarters, or maybe in a couple months, however you do. But don't look too far ahead or plan out too many months ahead, because you're just going to fill yourself with disappointment and frustration when things maybe don't work out as planned, unless you and your entire club are accepting of change so much that you're okay to let things go. But we all know it's really tough to deal with things when, things don't go as planned. Because as magicians, we have a little bit of control freak in us, obviously. So when things don't go according to plan, it can be frustrating. So I think a big thing is to be agile and not necessarily have too long form of a plan, especially since things are changing so much right now.
Yeah, and mix it up. Don't just always have cards, have different topics, maybe have challenges, different, themed, perhaps, meetings. Just mix it up.
Yeah, one thing that I remember, Peter Many brought this up, and we've mentioned this in the discussion before, and it might be a little bit different right now just because of COVID protocol. But the idea is you put a deck of cards on the table, and that deck goes around the room, and everyone shares a trick with that deck of cards. And maybe people rip cards up, cards get ruined. But until we're out of ideas, or maybe the deck is extinguished, how many tricks can we continue going on through the room? I think that's really fun. You could obviously redo that. Everyone brings their own deck. We asked our club on our last meeting, because we did a Magic in the Park meeting. I don't even think we brought this up, but we met in the park safely over the weekend. And I was asking everyone, what would you like to see? And John Graeme, member of the club, brought up he'd love to learn like some coin magic, because he's like, we always do cards. We always do cards. There's so much card magic and magic. So that's a thing to be mindful of, is mixing it up.
Agreed. And as a sign of the times, you should really embrace both virtual and in-person gatherings, and be flexible with that. Obviously, right now it's more virtual, perhaps, or a higher concentration of virtual events, but it's a-okay to jump in and have a jam session with your club virtually, and chit chat and test new material without getting all in the car or the transit to get to the meeting. And so there's conveniences of in-person that the younger generation for sure is going to have perhaps more embraced more quickly than yourself listening, perhaps. And the truth is, you really should put that as a note, that you should embrace this virtual culture, because it's not going away. You see all the news reports about this virtual aspect continuing, and there's reason. So let it sink in. Virtual is okay.
Yeah, well, I think, and I'll say this, because from a performance standpoint, virtual shows have seemed to have faded away a little. There's way less of them happening, for sure. They're still happening, but way less. But this virtual meeting and gathering, let's embrace it, because there are, you mentioned so many benefits. There's no commuting or driving. For me, it's always an hour commute to the Magic Club, right? That's a big deal, saving 2 hours out of my day. Plus, I think what's exciting too is we get to share our magic rooms. Most of us are in our magic rooms, and these are all the things, like our collection. We have all our tricks here. It gives us an opportunity to maybe share something we don't want to bring to the club. Maybe it's collectible, or how do I transport trout? It creates new opportunities. One thing that we brought up in our group discussion from the Discord members, and I think this was brought up by either Colin or George, is that some people are so introverted, especially when it comes to something niche like magic, that maybe coming to an in-person meeting can be scary or a lot to take in. However, a virtual club meeting might be the perfect way to get someone's toes wet, feet wet, see if they like this, and then give them the opportunity to maybe meet in person. And also on that note, realize that maybe people don't want to meet in person, and some people might not want to meet virtual. And that's that whole agile thing. You're offering up multiple opportunities for people to embrace and take part in the club. And this is going to come down further in lines about websites and communication. But yeah, I feel like those are some of the key benefits.
Raised a real good point there with the nervousness of attending a first in-person meeting. I had forgotten about that until you just mentioned it. And I think a lot of other club organizers probably have forgotten about it as well. It's intimidating. And so anything that we could do to make that easier is definitely on the to-do list of your club.
Because we all have to keep in mind when we're talking magic, a lot of us are so engulfed in it. I mean, Joyce, you've been doing magic for how many years? And I've been into it for around 20 years or more too. And we know a lot of inside baseball, talking shop and things like this. We have to remember when someone new comes in, they don't know nothing. They don't know anything.
Or anybody else there, for sure.
Right? Yeah, and we're also all
walk into a group of people we know.
Yeah.
Someone coming to the first time, it's very intimidating.
The last point about virtual is, I think one thing that clubs forget about, or maybe some clubs are mindful about, is how does the club generate money, and why does a club have to generate money? And some important things are keeping up the website. It allows you to maybe pay for an important lecture or guest speaker. Maybe it allows you to pay for an experience for the club. How about that? A little team building activity or something like that. Maybe a dinner out with the group or something, that not everyone has to pay for everything or something, But how would you make more money? Well, by offering virtual events, and you say you have a affordable admission for that virtual lecture, divvy it up. Half goes to the club, half goes to that lecturer. Simple process. And you know where I got that idea from? Listening to the Outer Bridges talking about the school fundraiser shows.
Great. Yeah. There it is.
Right there, I was like, that's how that works. That's so easy. And probably people are already doing this. It's not a new idea at all. But that's for our club, because we weren't doing anything like this. I think
those are great. A bunch of tips under the being agile interface. And now let's sort of walk over to a whole different category. And this is something that's perhaps a little bit harder in some aspects, and that's the listening and sharing part of the club. And one of the things I would say, just in the small interactions I've seen you take over the leadership, is just asking for the input from people. And I think that's just key across the board, is to be able to put aside what was previous, and to the whole table, suggest what's everybody's, motivations and interests, and just listen versus maybe doing the same thing because it was the same thing.
I think that's exactly what it is. Asking questions. What do you like about the club? Or what would you like to see out of the club? Or there's also, every club has a lot of historical members. And when you ask them about, they're like, oh, we used to do these club meetings in the 80s that were really fun and do this. Well, why don't we do something like that again? Share these ideas, kick the ball around. But you can also, with new experiences and these old ideas, come up with maybe the 2021 version of this situation. You can create so many things, but it's all about, it's not creating that agenda at the start of the Magic Club year and look, this is what we're doing. We're stuck to it. It's about let's talk about as a club and see what would you be interested in next month. So, for instance, this virtual lecture that I have coming in, I was like, everybody, I know this performer does spooky entertainment. Would you be okay with this? Would you want to attend something like this? And based on that response, we'll do it or we won't do it.
Yes, and of course, like every club, there's some long-term planning and pillar, events
Sure.
and things. We're not by any means suggesting don't forward think and such, but yeah, definitely having that ongoing and open communication, listening and changing based on that is key. Also, I have to say, based on what you've done to the website, and I'm a big web guy, having a good website for your club, I mean, that's super important. And thinking about what their perspective is and writing to them, new members and such, is your audience. It's not necessarily targeted at who your club has as members. It's sort of that opening page should be targeted at someone that clicks there and is like, well, I might want to join a magic club. Well, answer the questions that they need and show them how friendly and how engaging it is, and make that you know if you don't have a good website, make that one of your top priorities.
It's totally true. It's also a neat perspective to look at the website and realize what is the purpose of the website. And this goes back to that starting question: what's the purpose of the Magic Club? And when you start to think about that answer, that's where you're going to get the content from your website. That's how I had to build the website. That's why I asked the question at the start of the episode. Um, but having a good web presence is a place where you can post your events, your news stories, and so the blog posts. And what I'm doing is those blog posts are the emails I send out. They're the direct messages I'll send. Sometimes it's a phone call to some members. Same message, but it has to be multiple forms of communication. And each and every time I finish the communication, I tell everyone, oh, did you know you can go to the website and find everything there? It's easy peasy. And I try to update it frequently. With these blog posts too, what I'm doing is I'm trying to you took amazing photographs of our magic in the park. And I know there were people that couldn't make it or maybe they didn't know about it. But I think it's key to share photos of your meetings, each and every club meeting, to create that FOMO, that fear of missing out of like, oh, you're telling me at that KW Magic in the Park you had world record holder Doug Hunt, you had Fool Us and AGT magician Nick Wallace all the way from the Niagara region. How did that? You had Noah Noguera who juggles battle axes there. What? Really? You had Ryan Joyce who's been on Fool Us and toured the. Are you kidding me? Like all these incredible people. So that's what the goal of these things are to capture and everything like that.
I'll do a little side tip as well, because we're sort of working out this process. So if this helps for your club, what we did this week was I just took a bunch of photos because we know the club needs assets and things. And on Google Photos, you can just create an album and you can share that album with everybody from the club. So not only like immediately after can they drag and drop their photos into that shared album, but then they can also watch the clips immediately of themselves performing, and then your web person can take the best assets, a photo or two, and make a blog post out of it. And on the sidebars, we're talking in Wix for we is what our websites are, and I don't know about WordPress, but Wix, as soon as you post a blog post, it will publish out and notify those that have signed up for the newsletter. So it's a very synergistic and flowing process.
And Wix also has for the events, you can link up your Zoom. You can Wix, their new events system is just like working in Eventbrite. It's so easy. Yep. It is so easy. I highly suggest using the Wix interface if you're looking at starting a new website for your Magic Club.
There you go. And if that's an interest you wanted us to dive into on a specific episode, let us know. Join us in Discord and share that questions. Any questions you have about websites. And if it's an interest, we'll do an upcoming episode on it as well. And on that same token was the social presence in general of the club. And that's something I would put as important. Of course, having that website would be the landing. Once it's done, it's sort of up and can be functional. And then the web presence is you on the ongoing basis. So definitely probably good to have that foundation of the website to direct everyone to before you launch into setting up socials. And once you do, yeah, pick the ones you like, and definitely start communicating and sharing those socially with other magicians in your areas. That's how you're going to get new members.
Social media is one thing that I haven't jumped into yet with our club. I did this whole website thing, but it is on the agenda because it is in that idea of having multiple forms of communication, understanding a magic club is diverse. So that might mean a phone call, an email, a text, a DM on an Instagram, maybe just visiting the website. But realize that even though your club membership might be small, everyone communicates different. You have to be open to that. And the other thing that I'm being mindful of as a new club president is you can't meet everybody's needs. And as magicians, a lot of us are people pleasers. You know, we want to satisfy people's needs, but we have to be realistic and understand we can't meet everybody's needs. However, we can listen to everybody and try to create the best case scenario for everyone.
Solid tips, all beginning with listening. So definitely open it to your club. Find out what they want to see and do. This is great. What about this next one? I guess is our final pillar of content, and this is definitely probably the most fun.
And this is the most fun and what really makes, I think, clubs special, and where you can lean into the cycle, the network of all your magic clubs and associations. But that is to collaborate. That's to collaborate. And Joyce, I think you nailed it. But that's having a big goal for the club, right? Whether that's something like a charitable show, a ticketed show, creating brand awareness. Maybe it's a free show or something. Getting your club on the local news. How can you do that with your club? You have a lot of talent in that club. Some people, I don't know, you know all about truss, lights, audio, sound systems, and things like this. Peter Meny, who joined the club all the way from London, is a great stage manager and knows all these things too. Some people in the club, like Doug Hunt, world-class juggler, entertainer, can spitball jokes. You can collaborate and create. You know how we see amazing shows like The Illusionists? Do that with your club.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that aspect about the Magic Club way back in the day when I first joined, and for some reason, it's a big project to take on, and so it sort of faded away in our club for many, many, many years. But that was one of the things that I was most excited about, is being a stage show. For as a young magician at that point, as a new member mindset, like that was my first on stage time because of the Magic Club. And that's a milestone. That's a big thing. So the Magic Club will create milestones for magicians. You just got to have a big focus and a little bit of effort and some solid leadership. So
Yeah,
have purpose.
and purpose. And then the other thing about collaboration is working with the other rings, or maybe there's independent magic clubs too, but working together. Because I remember it a little bit as a kid, because my magic club experience as a kid were a little bit different, but clubs would visit other clubs to share magic and do these cross promotable events. So look into doing that, and you can do it virtual or meet up at a microbrewery or a bar or a restaurant, because maybe event spaces are a little bit different wherever you're located. But also work together with those rings. So the thing that I'm trying to do with this virtual event is having 3 magic clubs present it, so that we can get more people together to also support that lecturer too. There's a lot that can come with collaboration. I'm also talking with Colin, who's a good listener of the show, who's heavily involved with the Toronto Magic Club too. We're always communicating about new ideas and things we can do like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, not to revert back to my youth, but I remember going to the Toronto Club in a ring exchange and presenting a new piece of magic in Total Terror
Ring
as a
exchange.
young magician. So yeah, so that just seemed to have faded away in my time as well. So definitely, those are exciting. Those are fun things. So I will also say to build local connections within your community. You can establish, relationship with maybe a restaurant or theater or events or community-based organization, or do something together with somebody and build that local relationship, because those are the people that'll spread the message and say, "Oh, you got to find out about the Magic Club that means," those relationships will be key to many different aspects of the club.
Get connected with the local news, the press, so that they cover your story, and you have that go-to person that can do it. Maybe you can find someone that loves to sponsor your magic events. How about that? You know, there's so much potential here in relationship building. I think we talk about this a lot on the podcast. That is the number one key to growing any sort of growing in magic, really. Relationship building.
Very true. And finally, ask for help when you need it. Like this is a really great solid point for magicians, for magic clubs, for everybody. We have limited like capabilities, and ask for help because somebody else can do it faster and efficient and more efficient and just better. So recognize your strengths and weaknesses, identify members in the club that are like can service those needs. And if you can't, then really it's something that should be outsourced or service provided.
Like for instance, as an example, right now at the KW Magic Society, we have a very limited executive. It's me and John Buendijk. John is tremendous with club organization, spreadsheets, making sure the dues are paid, having everyone's email on file, phone numbers, where they live, their birthday, all that sort of stuff. I'm horrible with that sort of thing. However, I'm really fun with ideas, website generation, branding. So together right now, I think we've got a good flow. And then the other little piece that I'm really pushing in the Magic Club is embracing history, adding new posts to the secret idea that we have here. We're going to be emailing our members, by the way, lecture notes from former KW Magic Society members, historical lecture notes.
That's
almost
amazing.
On a monthly basis. So John and I are working on that together too. But I'm having the most fun right now working with John on this. It's so cool. Yeah. So anyhow, he's good at scanning the historical documents, sending them to me, and I can create those news blog posts on our website too. It's a great partnership because he's not so tech savvy. I don't have all the historical information, so it's really great. Breaking podcast news. I've just received confirmation. This whole idea that we've been kicking around, this virtual lecture hosted by 3 local clubs together, I have just gotten confirmation from Joe Diamond, 2-time MTM guest. Thursday, October 21st is when we will have our virtual lecture with Joe, free to the members of those 3 organizations, Ring 49, Ring 239, or the London Magicians Guild. And it will be, I think we're playing around with the idea of $10 for anyone that wants to tune in. But triple snaps for Joe for pulling through, because I know he has an incredibly busy schedule this
and
Halloween
see, folks,
season.
We don't just talk about stuff like this on the podcast. We do stuff like this on the podcast. That's amazing. I can't wait.
Anyhow, I want to loop back to that question that I asked at the very start of this conversation, which is, what is the purpose of your magic club? I've thought about this for a long while, especially when I decided to be like, I'm going to be president of the Magic Club. I'll do it. I'll step up for it. And this was the first thing I started thinking about. What is the purpose of the Magic Club? Is it kind of just a group of, older gentlemen meeting for coffee, just talking magic? That's okay. I've experienced that Magic Club before. But I remember I joined IBM Ring 235 specifically because I heard about Scott Boyd. You were super excited about Scott Boyd. Hey, you got to check out this guy. Like, he just got into magic. You got to see what he's doing. And then I heard about Sam Pierce and yourself. I've always known about you. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast. Weird full circle thing that we're doing this podcast now. But you all came from the same Magic Club. You all received mentorship, professional mentorship to become professional magicians. And I experienced a little bit of this in it to some extent, but not to the point of like theater shows, stage shows. So naturally, me being a magic junkie, I wanted to get in on this. So I had to join the club. I'm willing to drive an hour to come to this club to experience this mentorship and get those things firsthand. So I came up with the simple idea of what is the purpose of the club. And that's, we offer a welcoming space to learn, share, and perform magic with fellow enthusiasts.
Nailed it. That's amazing.
And I think it's important for a club to either have a mission statement or a vision statement like this. It's a big, lofty kind of thing, but this is going to help direct everything that we do. Are we always, every event that we throw, are we making sure that we're learning and sharing, giving an opportunity just for someone to perform? And also, is it a welcoming space? And I think this is a new idea that magic clubs have to think about. This is a controversial topic that has come up numerous times in our conversations, but that is Magic clubs have traditionally met in a church basement, and it's 2021. Maybe that's not an acceptable place to be a welcoming environment anymore. However, I kicked around the local library. I mean, one big thing we want to do in the Magic Club is increase membership, attract new people. I know the library's not the same anymore, but that's the first place I went to go learn magic. So imagine there was a poster or the club meeting, advertisement, some sort of relationship, collaboration with the library. Joyce, you have an interesting one locally here where a professional magician and agent owns a restaurant locally. You know, that could be a potential collaboration partnership. A lot of us know local business owners, and they might be a brewer, like, you know, craft beer place. Collaboration, partnership.
It's very true. I think you raised just the best possible statement there with those 3 big points: learning, sharing, and performing. I agree. Your interests in magic will sort of evolve and change over the course of your time with the Magic Club, but really those are the 3 foundational points that every club needs to grow on. So I think that's amazing. The club can certainly help you grow as a performer, unlike anything else that you'll get. It's different from doing a show for the public because you can get feedback. It's open and safe space to test new material. It's supposed to be all of those things, and a discussion on magic with people who also like magic. So find a way to flourish that magic, and I think the club will be a huge success.
And if you are interested in joining the KW Magic Society, check out our webpage and learn how. I might not be very clear, but you can email me or something. But we welcome international members. Have you ever thought about that your club could be open to, say, someone just offering the virtual meetings? Because our dues this year are only $20 to join the whole club. The admission for this one lecture is $10. Say we have 3 lectures. You do the maths.
There it is. Well, I would say there's lots of solid advice on this episode for other fellow magicians who are interested in helping grow their magic clubs. I think this was lots of great ideas here.
This has a lot of ideas. I'm actually really excited to revisit this episode maybe like a year from now on Magicians Talking Magic to see where clubs have changed and evolved, because there is this back burner idea that when we left Magic in the Park the other day, like, hey, there's this Hamilton club, there's this London club, there's this kid. We're 3 different clubs. Can we, like, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers together somehow?
Absolutely. It's such a great idea. So in 1 year's time, we will have an answer to this question. Well, this is certainly a conversation to be had, and if you want to contribute to the conversation or ask us any questions, you can do so in Discord. Links are always in the episode description. So go and check us out there.
Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, and if you want to support the podcast, you can buy some merch. Plus, check out our store page. I think we have some downloads and things over there too. But really, our favorite way is when you join the Discord. That's honestly the best way that we communicate with our listeners and get to meet you. Don't be shy. It's a safe space.
Well, my name is Ryan Joyce. Thank you so much for listening.
My name's Graemazing.
Shabalazam.
To Doozle. Meow. We did it.